sometimes I feel like Jack Benny when I get out there. Jack Benny always says that nobody expects anything from him. Whatever he gives them is gravy. And so, in a way, I think I've almost built my career on that attitude, that people expect so little when I come out to play from the instrument, that when I do show something, and even if they're only a little bit impressed, the contrast between what they had otherwise expected and that which they witness is marked enough that they think they're being enthusiastic.
This is Jim McAndrew. Today on Camera 3, Gary Karr, the world's foremost performer on the double bass, an instrument seldom played solo and almost never with true genius. Dragonetti, who lived in the days of Haydn, and Koussevitzky in our own time, are the great masters of the instrument. Gary Karr plays their music, and in addition is dedicated to pushing the double bass into fresh fields, as we shall see. Mr. Karr is seventh in a line of family musicians. He studied at Juilliard, made his recital debut in 1962, and has frequently been heard in Europe and Asia, as well as in the United States. Besides playing the double bass, he is an active propagandist for the instrument. And when he's not playing, he is very busy teaching others. He is the founder of the International Institute for the Stringed Bass, an organization which boasts 2,000 members all around the world and seeks to encourage composers to compose for the instrument and to raise its image and standards. Today on Camera 3, Gary Karr will play with the CBS Orchestra, conducted by Alfredo Antonini, with the Electric Cars, a rock and roll group from the University of Wisconsin, with guitarist Frederick Hand, and with jazz bassist Richard Davis. Mr. Davis, Downbeat magazine's choice for leading contemporary jazz bassist, plays with the Mel Lewis, Thad Jones band in the Village Vanguard. During the past year, Mel Lewis frequently spotted Gary Karr in the audience, and one night invited him to join in.
He didn't know when he had asked us that I had been working with Richard Davis, doing some things where we would take a Baroque sonata and I'd play it straight and he'd improvise it like the Baroque musicians improvised over the figured bass. And so I did go down, but quite reluctantly. My God, you know, at the Village Vanguard, these people are there for jazz. They don't want to hear a long-haired musician like me. And just because I dig jazz doesn't mean I can play it, and, you know, and I don't want to embarrass myself. And I was thinking, well, what should I play? You know, Shadow Over Your Smile, Man and a Woman, that's really cornball stuff at the Village Vanguard. So Richard suggested that we do a plain old classical Baroque sonata, and my reaction to that was that he was crazy, you know, they will be thrown out of the club. So last Monday night during their first break, we performed, and we brought down the house. My family, they were really terrible. Being surrounded by bass players is no real aid and no source of encouragement. And I once made the mistake of telling my uncle that I had intentions of being a member of one of the major orchestras. And boy, you should have seen his reaction. He just about broke his bow over my back. He was so angry that I should even entertain such wild thoughts. The chances are 1 in a million, and he felt absolutely altruistic in his attempt to discourage me in this regard. But even when I said that secretly, deep down, my intention ever since I began playing the bass was to play it as a solo instrument. I think within a year after I studied the instrument, I even played in public a solo, Country Gardens it was. I'll never forget that. It was in grammar school. And I never told anybody about it. And I never let on to my parents or anybody that I really wanted to be a soloist. I think of my instrument as a human voice, and it was the cantorial quality of the instrument that brought me to it. It's that sound, that singing sound, which I like most, because I feel that the instrument is actually my vocal cords. My first teacher, his name was Yuda Demonstein, and he came over with my family from Russia. And he was a wonderful man. I was really lucky because he lived across the street from me. And I never got lessons from him. I just practiced with him. He came over every day and made me practice. My uncle tried to teach me, and that was a total disaster. My grandfather did teach me, though. It was more of a coaching thing. And my grandfather was a very special man, and he was kind of the philosopher. And I think that I probably loved him almost, I revered him almost more than any musician in my family. And he really did, he did excite me. He made me read poetry. He was Russian, and he opened up the realm of Russian poetry and Russian authors to me, and he himself read in about 5 languages, and he was a very learned man. I don't think I ever discovered I was good. I think someone else did that. And I don't think I ever thought of I was successful. I mean, someone else said that. Still don't think of myself as being good. You should see me working, and I go through such frustrations and anxiety. I have a terrible inferiority complex, and I don't think of myself as being great. I'm struggling to play the piano now, and I sound like such a beginner, you know. It's I work every day at it. I feel I feel probably more thirst for knowledge than any of my students, you know. So I don't really consider myself. I think that I'm just doing my thing, you know, and I think my thing is good. People, when they watch a bass player play, they'll say, "My gosh, he makes it look so easy." If they only knew what kind of pains and frustrations the bass player was going through in order to negotiate these difficult passages. These strings are very, very thick in comparison to the others, so there's a lot to hold down. The pressure that we have to exert in order to press them down is enormous. The strings, to give you an idea, on my instrument, I know this to the exact pound, that my top string takes 40 pounds of pressure to press down, the next 50, the next 60, and the next 70 pounds. So you can imagine how strong your hands have to be to play it. And then the other problem on the bass, which doesn't exist as strongly on the other instrument, is the shifting problems. Imagine having to, in order to do a 1-octave leap, you have to shift almost a foot. And this takes a tremendously fast reflexive response. I think I'm kind of lucky because my papa was a baseball player. He probably would have gone professionally into playing for the Cardinals. He was on their practice team for some time, and he was a great baseball player and a good tennis player. So I think I've kind of inherited some of his athletic capabilities, and probably that's aided my reflexive action. I can get around the instrument quickly, but that's a problem. Now with contemporary writing, I'm coming across more and more problems in playing the instrument. They're employing double stops, holding 2 notes down at the same time. And if you think it's hard enough to press 1 string that's 50 pounds down, imagine having to press 2 strings down, and with the same finger yet. So this is a problem. The low frequency of the instrument presents some problems in writing and playing, because it has a tendency to ring endlessly. If I were to play a note, pizzicato, pluck a note, it might ring for as long as a minute and not die out. So when we have to do some fast articulation on the lower realms of the instrument, it's very difficult, and it can be done, but you have to work very hard to get that to be so articulate that one note doesn't run into the next. So that's a problem. I'm a sensualist. I like taste. I like feel. I like fabrics. I like cold winds and the sun, the moon, and rainy days, and color. I respond very strongly to color. My eyes are always looking for things to enjoy. So that's my nature. when I think of growing up in the 40s, it makes me feel so old. My students are really wild. You know, I'm now 27, just turned 27, and my students sometimes they make me feel so old. You know, like I think it's bad enough there's a generation gap between me and my parents, but there seems to be one. I don't know. Maybe it's not so strong. I hate to think it's not strong. That it is strong, but there seems to be a gap between me and my students. My students are probably 8 years younger than I, and sometimes I get thrown a hint and say, well, you know, I'm such an old man or something like that, in hope that they're going to come back and say, oh, Gary, you're really not so old, you know. But they never do. They remain silent, which is just terrible. If anybody asks me who I am, my first answer is a bass player. and then they say, oh no, really, who are you? And then I say, well, I'm a teacher. I teach at Juilliard School of Music at New England Conservatory, University of Wisconsin. And I teach some jazz bass players. And they said, no, come on, really, who are you? And then I say, well, I'm a Jew. I come from a very proud heritage, which has its way of getting into my music. And I feel very much a Jew. And I'm an American. I'm proud to be American. And then, I don't know, that's who I am.